Good afternoon. How you guys doing? This is Harper with Community First. I'm going to be with you 10 minutes. I just want to say that all of this we're doing is really good stuff in community. ADOS moving forward. It's very good that we're opening up this discussion and pressing the issue. But I do want to say, from my assessment of the way things exist in terms of race in our system, is that people that are from other races who have been declared wealthy and that own businesses, Asians owning businesses, Arabs, East Indians, and whites having the generational wealth due to chattel slavery, and then also owning businesses and have gained capital in these Americas. They are not really worried about us knowing what they're doing. We do know that. We're very intellectual, and a lot of us are very educated. We know that what the concern is what we're going to do about it. They don't. It's a game of chess. It's not about whether you know it's a game of chess. It's, are you going to win? And to further oppress is also the fact that they are in power and they control the media. They control and they have the businesses, and we constantly patronize the businesses, and surrounding ourselves with going in their stores, buying clothes. I mean, everything we do goes to a white-owned corporation, a white society, and other groups who have accessed whiteness in the United States. And we have not yet, we haven't received reparations or none, so we can play on an equal playing field. We have been under the most conspiracy I ever seen in my entire life. But it's what we're going to do. And if we don't get unity, and black people being stubborn about their own cause, saying stuff like, well, we did this before, and well, what is Yvette Carnell talking about, and what is Tone talking about, and what we're constantly doing is basically critiquing everything that we set out to do with each other, critiquing it along with the powers that be in other groups. We're being divisive. We're not snowballing into the unity that we actually need. We are, but then again, we're not. So we can overcome these oppressions and anchor ourselves for the better good in terms of law, business, and the political umbrella. We're in a social democracy. So we got people like Dr. Claude Anderson that has been explaining this for years, and we got people that we should all embrace and everything. And I think that us black people really don't know, and a lot of other groups either, what racism really is and how it came, where it come from, and how it was born. Racism, I know what it is, but it's going to take a further talk to explain that. Well, first I can tell you it's definitely different from being prejudiced. Racism is an institution that's been set up for someone else to be a failure in terms of a race. And then the racism came after the word race. And that means when they won the race, now it's called racism. It's a system. And they can practice racism in terms of how you're being treated or what you're forced to as it pertains to law and government policy. That's racist. Racist is, an entity that's designed for people that have lost the race in terms of wealth and the social system, and access and being there. So if you get the police come out practicing racism, it's because they are a government entity and they have chose to handle you because of a group or your identity or where you come from with no passion, no empathy, no due diligence in terms of people losing their lives by the police officer, going up to prison pipelines. And this is a system. This is all court and government. It's all a strategy, and it deals with hierarchy. But it's racism. Racism comes from a system of people, a system of ideas and laws. It ain't got nothing to do with you being prejudiced. Prejudice and race is different from each other. And I think we have to we have to do diligence. I mean, strategic about what everything means before we can attack, before we can readjust, before we can recondition. Before we can do that, we have to actually know what it is and not just be using terms in other places and squeeze them in spots they don't belong. Racism is not prejudice. So we have to know that. And those who have won a race throughout humanitarian crime and crisis against another people, who have lost the race, have allowed other people to access their status of living in terms of law and political system, in terms of the way they do business, capital, gaining capital and everything. So these people over here owning businesses because they're accessing the wealth of the people who won the race. They're accessing the wealth of the people who get put into blood sacrifice, the ones who lost it, which are the slave descendants. And, they accessing, these other groups are accessing that of the positive side, positive side of that. And the people that are subjected to eat the failure are the ones who lost the race. They're accessing the outcome of being in this system. The beauty of that. This is what that is. So it's not about prejudice. Anybody can be prejudiced, but everybody cannot be racist. Racism is a group. So we have to know that. And I kind of lost my thought about, the success. They're accessing the success of racism. I meant to say other groups that are coming here because of who they are. They're not a threat. They're not. The people that are basically the ones that are the so-called threat is us, because they are in debt with us. But anyway, I want to come and talk about more things. We just have to understand the difference between what actually means something and stop putting words everywhere. You got to be strategic. You got to be poignant about this. We have to know and stop going around talking backwards, because people laugh at you and they don't rectify, because you're not even stating a claim if you don't know how to put it in perspective. Know that racism is a term that has set us. Racism is to identify how this system is anchored in terms of business and political environment, laws, democracy, social democracy. And all these businesses being owned by other people, and we being forced off our property and never given stuff, are used to be slaves and had to deal with the brutalization of aftermath of slavery. And then other people coming here getting capital because they are accessing our system due to our failure and gaining capital. And we have not been rectified or remembered. And we have to remember ourselves and stop going around thinking that we okay and having a social delusion about that we are okay and stuff. That's not how this country exists in terms of history. Well, thank you for joining me.